Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this first meeting of Heritage Oakville for 2026 to order. It's been quite a while since we've met, and I'll have to go through some kind of training program again to remember how to do this, but I'll do my best to stumble on. I would like to welcome also people at home who are watching us online today. If their internet is working, our Bell Internet in South Oakville died for 2 days, and it came back on this morning. And if you are able to watch us and you want to follow the agenda, you should go to the town website and look under council meetings and committees, and you can find the agenda material there. Delegations are permitted, both in person and online, but in all cases, delegates have to pre-register. And they can do that with the clerk's department by noon on the business day prior to the meeting. And there's a simple registration form that you can find on the website that helps you to do that. We have 2 registered delegates today for this meeting. We have 4 discussion items and 2 information items on the agenda today. But before we get going, I'd like to welcome Councillor Peter Longo to membership of this committee. This is his first meeting. So I'm sure you will enjoy the meetings, and I look forward to your participation, Councillor. Thank you. And Kirk, I think you have a senior staff member who's joining us for the first time this morning, and perhaps you could introduce him.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to welcome the Commissioner of Community Development, Michael Mizzi, to join us at committee this morning. Sure, if you would like to say something, certainly. Please do.
Good morning, committee. I just wanted to say thank you for the warm welcome, Chair. As Kirk said, my name is Michael Mizzi. I'm Commissioner for Community Development, and I've been here about a year now. And I read every word of every report that does come here. And to the chagrin of staff, I feel compelled to edit sometimes, and I shouldn't. And I have watched the committee on the screen, but I've not been here in person. So it's a real pleasure to see you all in person and to sit in and watch your proceedings. So thank you for the welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner, and it's wonderful to see the support that Heritage gets in the town of Oakville, and it's had consistently for a good number of years now. Thank you. Okay, now on to the regular agenda. Madam Secretary, have we any regrets for today?
Yes, Councillor McNeese and Emma Dowling.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest? Jerry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I have a declaration of pecuniary interest on item 4.4 for 3175 Lakeshore Road.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Jason?
Yes, hi, Jason here. I have item 4.3, Cultural Heritage Landscape Strategy for Appleby College.
Thank you. Okay, confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. These have been distributed. Has anyone any comments to make on the minutes? Would somebody, perhaps Sue, likes to give me a motion to approve the minutes as distributed? Yes. Thank you. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed to that motion? The motion is carried. Thank you. Now, the first discussion item is a notice of intention to designate 3269 Dundas Street West, and that's Sue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll just get the presentation pulled up and go from there. Thank you very much. So I am very pleased to stand before you here today and bring forward a notice of intention to designate for this property at 3269 Dundas Street West. This is a designation that has been well over 15 years in the making, and staff have put a lot of time into this application, obviously not just from Heritage Planning. This has been really an entire planning department effort, especially on behalf of senior planner Rob Thun, who I believe might be online today to help us answer any questions you might have about the development applications associated with this property. Okay. So, as I'm sure you noticed in your report in the agenda package, there is a very long development history for this site. The original official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendments for this property were submitted back in 2011. There was also a lot of work done on them before that submission, even before I believe I started with the town in 2009. But from 2011, we've seen a number of different reports related to conservation of the heritage assets on this property, which is a very large property. A number of consultant teams have been involved, both on the town's behalf and on behalf of the property owner, who's Bentel Kennedy. The first was a report created by Archaeological Services, Inc., that's ASI. And we do have links in the staff report to these past reports, given that we didn't want to print them all today, bog everyone down, but they are linked for you to go back and review if you do feel the need to. I know a number of committee members have seen a number of these reports before. The ASI report really had some issues with it, and staff requested a peer review of that assessment, given that its conclusion that the heritage attributes of the property were not significant enough to warrant heritage designation. We had some current concerns, and so retained our own consultants, Stevens Burgess Architects, who undertook a peer review which showed some flaws in the evaluation of the property by ASI. We then retained SBA as well to, I guess, start fresh and to complete their own cultural heritage evaluation report to give us an idea of what the cultural heritage value and heritage attributes of the property might be. And that report really showed to us that what we were looking at was a cultural heritage landscape. It wasn't just a singular asset on the property. It was about the collection of assets on the property and how they related to each other. The applicants accepted the town's consultant's report and then retained another consultant, this was the MMM group, to create a conservation management plan which would kind of set out how they saw the heritage protections moving forward on the property in the future. And so it was this conservation management plan that was brought forward to the Heritage Oakville Advisory Committee back in 2014. The minutes of that meeting are attached to your staff report. Simply, I know we do have some new committee members, and so I wanted to make them aware of the comments that had been made by the committee at that point in time, especially there were some considerations that were requested that I think have been reflected in that conservation management plan. And so there was strong support for the preservation of the barn, or at least the original portion of it. And I'll go through some photos of the property in just a few minutes so we can take a look at some of these heritage assets. But there was a really strong recognition of the importance of the natural heritage of this site, especially the hedgerows and mature trees, and also the transportation routes that kind of wove in and out throughout the property over its history of both agricultural and recreational use. And it was noted by the committee as well that there was a great opportunity here for public access and engagement with the history of this part of North Oakville, as the cultural heritage landscape lands were proposed to be deeded to the town in the future, along with the natural heritage system that comprises the creek system. So Heritage Oakville saw that report in 2014, but there wasn't conditional approval of these development applications until 2023. There were a lot of issues that needed to be worked out between the applicant and the town. A number of reports were required to be resubmitted. And as I noted earlier, Rob Thun may be able to help us with any questions you might have about the immense amount of work that went on within that almost 10-year span. working up to the conditional approval of those development applications. And so since then, the property owner has quite a few of those conditions, again, I believe linked in your staff report, to work through. But one of the things they've been working with very closely with staff is the creation of a reference plan to define the boundary of the cultural heritage landscape. And we'll go through that as well. All right. Sorry, next slide, please. Thank you. So this is one of the maps that was taken from one of our reports on the property that gives you a better idea of the interconnections, I guess, of all of the structures and natural heritage features and pathways, transportation routes, and trees that are on this property. A number of these features no longer exist. And that is simply due essentially to their condition. So what we're looking at here is a map that shows, number one is what's called the new house, which was built by the Pigott family in the 1950s. The original farmhouse used to be located on this site. However, it was picked up and moved to the back of the property. That's indicated with the number 2. That original farmhouse no longer exists. A structural report was commissioned by heritage qualified structural engineers, which indicated that the condition of any of the remaining historic materials was not able to be maintained. In addition, it did have a completely new concrete block foundation, had suffered extensively from water damage and hadn't been occupied in a number of years, and so that building has since been demolished. Towards the middle of the property is the summer house, another feature that was built by the Pigott family. And you can see also the shuffleboard courts, the pool, which isn't indicated by a number, but which is a large feature there too, and several other outbuildings that either the chicken house and the milk shed and the garage do not have heritage value, and I believe the chicken house has since been removed as well. Okay, so just to take you around the property, I know some of you have been out there, some of you haven't. It is located on the north side of Dundas Street West, just west of Brawny Road. And really what you can see from Dundas Street, the first thing you see are these entrance pillars that will be relocated and maintained. And then the mature trees that start dotting along the property and the edge of the hedgerow that lines the entrance drive. This is the 1950s house that was constructed by the Pigott family. It has since been altered in a number of different ways, including the construction of this front porch enclosure. I believe a number of additions on the rear as well. It's clad in vinyl siding. It is a fairly typical representative of a vernacular home of that age and does not have any particular architectural significance in and of itself. This is a photo of the original farmhouse before it was demolished. These photos, I believe, are from 2023. You can see, obviously, that the condition of the house was in very poor condition. It had been clad in like the insul brick faux stone material over top of a wood cladding. And pretty much all of the wood features of the home had been significantly damaged by water, and rot over the years. And so this no longer exists, but included the photo simply so that the newer members of the committee who didn't see this in 2014 understood what we were looking at back then. And here again are some of the hedgerows that line the transportation laneways within the property. And of course, the majestic mature trees that are located throughout the area of the property that was really used by the Pigott family for recreational purposes. Here we have the barn, which has been added on to in a number of different phases. So the largest portion that's kind of immediately center of this photo with the simple gable end is the original portion of this barn. The portion that you can see just on the left, there's a one-story flat-roofed portion that connects to a gambrel-style roof portion of the barn. Those are later additions. They have not been identified as having heritage value in and of themselves. It's the historic portion of the barn and also the silo that staff have included in the notice of intention to designate as heritage attributes of the property. And this is just coming around the side, so you can see actually that gable and barn is a bank barn as well, with a steep bank leading up to the hayloft area. As well, you can see one of the later additions in the lower right-hand corner that would not be conserved. Again, we're walking around the property, so you can simply see the barn from a different angle, but within its original or historic setting context of these hedgerows and mature trees and expansions of lawn. This is the summer house, a really interesting little structure, again, constructed by the Piggott family. It is proposed for retention. It's in relatively good shape, and it's quite an interesting little feature. Again, highlighting the kind of shift in uses of the property as it went from a purely agricultural use in its early years to more of recreational and family uses while the farm was still functioning. But agricultural uses were pushed to the back of the property, closer to the barn, the fields that extended out to the north. And so the area surrounding the house really and closer to Dundas Street were where most of the family's recreational activities took place. And the summer house provided a lovely shelter from both sun, rain, and mosquitoes. This is the swimming pool. And again, it's quite an interesting structure, very unique. It is not proposed to be conserved intact. There would certainly be some safety concerns with that, but I'll run through some of the strategies in the strategy that the committee reviewed in 2014 shortly. And here again, you can actually see the summer house kind of within its larger context, the swimming pool there to the side, and the shuffleboard courts actually are just on the other side of the summer house. But again, noting the natural heritage features of this property, the pathways used for pedestrian travel throughout the property, and the lovely mature trees. So the evaluation of this property obviously has taken place in slightly different ways than the designation project has dealt with over the past 2 years, simply because we've been dealing with it for so long. And so the notice of intention to designate and the statement of cultural heritage value, a list of heritage attributes, has been summarized from those reports that I referenced earlier, especially the Stevens Burgess Associates report and the conservation management strategy. Essentially, though, we are looking at a cultural heritage landscape that we're now referring to as the Wilkinson Piggott Farm, after the two prominent owners of this particular property. And it is a mix of building structures, vegetation and landscape features, in a layout typical of a 19th century farm complex. However, that of course evolved into these recreational uses that are further described in the notice of intention to designate. Its historic and associative value has been certainly demonstrated through its association with the Wilkinson family and the Piggott family, both of whom were very well-known families in Trafalgar Township, and they both owned and operated the farm for significant amounts of time. As well, this property has contextual value. It is representative of one of the rapidly disappearing farms from our landscape. It contains components of a mixed-use farm complex that would have been very common at one point in time, and then has also these design landscape features that supported the family's recreational use of the property over the years, especially from the 1950s onwards. And so right now, staff's recommendation to you is that we issue a notice of intention to designate for the property under the Ontario Heritage Act. The notice of intention to designate, of course, is attached as one of the appendices to the staff report. It has been reviewed and supported by the property owner, Bental Kennedy, who are fully aware of the report that's going forward today and have been very supportive. As I noted, we will be limiting the extent of the designation to the reference plan that's also attached as a draft in your agenda package. We're simply just waiting on the registration number from the Land Registry Office, and so that will be provided to staff before the Planning and Development Council meeting, at which this item will be considered at in February, so that we will have the proper information ready to go when we do formally issue that notice of intention to designate. I am happy to answer any questions that the committee might have. And again, as I've noted, if there are any questions about the development application, I may call on my colleagues to help me answer them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Susan. It's really interesting. You provided in the material the copy of the minutes from December the 16th, 2014. And there's Jerry there, there's George there, you're there, I'm there. So quite a few of us have been around here for a while, and but it just helped to remind me just some of the history of this project. So thank you for that presentation. Any questions of Sue on this application? No, good, thank you. We have no delegations registered, so we're now confined to the board. Any discussion of this? No. So would somebody like to give me a motion? Jerry? Jerry has given me a motion to approve the staff recommendation. Any further discussion on that? Jerry, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I just wanted to say that I'm happy to move staff recommendation. What a wonderful journey and what a lovely conclusive end. It's nice to see Bental Kennedy being supportive of this recommendation. The construction strategy, the conservation strategy is lovely. It captures all of the important and practical heritage items. It can adaptively reuse the building foundations for landscape to tell the story of place, the terroir of our history. So very happy to see this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. So if there's no further discussion, anyone opposed to that motion? Seeing none, the motion is carried. I'll just take this opportunity to remind everyone that our motions are all votes to recommend. We recommend to Council that the notice be issued under Section 29, and anyone here today or watching who wishes to speak to that matter when it gets to Council at its February the 17th meeting must register as delegates by noon on the business day prior to that meeting. Okay? Good. Super, thank you. Moving on to 4.2, Notice of Intention to Designate 515 Esplanade. And that's Kristen.
Good morning, committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as stated, we are looking to submit a notice of intention to designate the property at 515 Esplanade. You can just see it here from the south elevation on the first slide. Okay, I'll take you through a brief summary of the property. You do have the Cultural Heritage Evaluation Report in the package, so hopefully you're able to review it. The owner of the house reached out to us last year about designating the property, so we are including it as part of our 2023 to now 2027 designation project. So just as an aside, you may be seeing a few more of these this year as we wrap that project up. So this property is known as the Lily House. You can see its location on the map on the left-hand side of the slide, and also a historical photo of it on the right. Yes, circled in yellow, sorry. It is one of the few remaining historical buildings along this street. It was built by C.D. Carson, Charles Carson, for John Lilly, circa 1907-08, who was the first principal of the Oakville High School, and it was built as a family cottage. This neighborhood, historically known as Orchard Beach, was subdivided by Carson to create a cottage neighborhood for wealthy families from Toronto and Hamilton. And this is one example of that. Just a couple couple photos of some of the heritage elements. The report goes into more detail, but we do have elements such as exposed wooden eaves, a historic front door, upper story heritage windows as well. So in terms of the 906 criteria that this house meets for designation, it is a representative example of a vernacular craftsman style house built during the early 1900s. It has historical and associative value as it is associated with the theme of the development of Orchard Beach, which again was that early 20th century subdivision, the prominent local builder C.D. Carson, and the first owner John Lilly, who again was the first principal of Oakville High School. And it has contextual value as it is physically and historically linked to its surroundings, and it still stands in its original location and contributes to the understanding of the local community and its early history as a cottage neighborhood. So in summary, staff is recommending that a notice of intention to designate be issued under Section 29, Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act for this property. And then we would like to take the same recommendation to council at a future meeting. So that's that one. I would be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Are there any questions of Kristen? No? Good, thank you. We don't have any registered delegates for this, so we're confined to the board. Any discussion? Jerry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just another comment. It's a good day and a pleasure to see another enthusiastic owner willing to support heritage and to have their property designated. It's good to see, and lovely work. I loved reading about the history and the connection between this little house and OT. Interesting. All interesting, good news. Thank you.
Super, thank you, Jerry. Yes, it is good when these applications are supported. Bob?
Just a comment that it's one of the few of the remaining cottages in that area, so it's really good to have it designated and protected.
Thank you, Bob. Any other comments? Bob, would you like to give us the motion? Thank you, Bob. Bob has moved the staff recommendation. Any further discussion on that? Anyone opposed to that motion? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. So the next item on the agenda is 4.3, which is the Cultural Heritage Landscape Strategy, Appleby College Phase 2. Kristen again.
Yes, it's me again. Just waiting for this. All right, perfect. All right, thank you again, Mr. Chair. I'm back. Now I am going to be going over Phase 2, the evaluation of Appleby College as a cultural heritage landscape. Today I will be summarizing the background, related policy, highlights of the report and findings, and next steps. And I hope that if you were able to read the report, it was an enjoyable read. So as you can see in this slide, Appleby College is located south of Lakeshore Road West and on the shores of Lake Ontario. It is currently a day and boarding school, and it was formed as a school in 1911 and has been maintaining that same function for over 100 years in this location. Parcels have been added to the east, where it was originally, the original boundary ended at about the west side of that south playing field. So it has grown over time, just for context. So because we have some new members, I'm just going to give a brief background on the cultural heritage landscape strategy that we have here. So Oakville adopted the Cultural Heritage Landscape Strategy in 2014 to guide the identification, evaluation, and protection of cultural heritage landscapes, or CHLs. A CHL is a geographical area modified by human activity and valued by the community for its heritage significance. These landscapes may include buildings, structures, natural features, views, and archaeological sites that reflect the historical and cultural identity of the area. The strategy is implemented in 3 phases. The first was the identification of potential CHLs, then the evaluation of each through a cultural heritage evaluation report, and then the implementation of protection, which is done through a designation bylaw and conservation plan. The Phase 1 inventory was completed in 2016. At the time, Appleby College was identified as a potential CHL, but as low priority, with existing heritage resources in use and maintained, and also listed. However, future development was flagged as a potential risk. In Phase 2, full assessments of identified properties from the inventory are being completed, and then based on these assessments, protection of the property is done through designation or through official plan policies. The Cultural Heritage Evaluation Report, attached as Appendix B here today, is Phase 2 for Appleby College. And so how that works is that the Ontario Heritage Act, Planning Act, and Provincial Planning Statement together form a coordinated legislative framework for the protection of CHLs in Ontario. The Ontario Heritage Act provides legal tools for designation and protection of heritage properties. The Planning Act enables municipalities to incorporate heritage conservation policies into their official plans, and the PPS mandates that significant cultural heritage resources be conserved as responsible land use planning. The Livable Oakville Plan aligns with these provincial policies by committing to the protection of CHLs through that landscape strategy. As we are aware, the More Homes Built Faster Act in 2022 and the Homeowner Protection Act in 2024 significantly changed how listed heritage properties are managed under the Ontario Heritage Act. Relevant to today are 2 points from that properties listed before January 1st, 2023 must be designated by January 2027 or removed from the register with a 5-year restriction on relisting, and that properties must now meet 2 of the 9 heritage designation criteria under Ontario Regulation 906. So despite the extension from 2025 to 2027, this initial urgency led staff to prioritize Appleby College's evaluation as a CHL to avoid delisting and ensure its heritage value is protected. As part of Phase 2, Appleby College has been evaluated using Ontario Regulation 906 as a Part 4 individual designation. The site's heritage buildings, built structures, natural features, trails, views, and areas of archaeological potential were considered in the evaluation. So I'm just going to give very brief history. If you want more, it is in the report. Appleby College was founded in 1911 by Sir Edmund Walker, a banker and arts patron, and his son-in-law, John Guest, who was the first headmaster. This land had been previously farmed by the McCraney family. The college began as a small boarding school with 29 students and 1 building, Colley House, which is pictured here on the slide, which served as both residence and classroom. Walker and Guest envisioned the school as a place for a well-rounded education, combining academics, character development with a focus on physical health in what was then quite a rural setting. These principles shaped its curriculum and its campus design. Over the last 110 years, this campus has grown to include over 20 buildings, reflecting a range of architectural styles and educational focuses. The school also became coeducational in 1991. The property also maintains many natural features, such as McCraney Creek, mature woodlots, and a rare shingle beach shoreline. This location for the school was initially chosen because of its natural elements, and many of these still exist on campus today, maintaining the school's ties to nature. So now I will be going over the general evaluation results, which are categorized basically as significant built heritage, significant built structures, and significant natural features. And again, this is a brief overview. Appleby College's built heritage reflects over a century of architectural evolution, beginning with early 20th century arts and crafts buildings, expanding into Gothic revival and modernist architecture. Through the evaluation, 7 significant heritage buildings were identified. These include Colley House from 1911 and Principal's House from 1913, which are both arts and crafts styles, the McCraney Barn from 1914, which is a rare example of early agricultural architecture that is remaining and in good condition in Oakville, and the 1920 to 29 portion of John Bell Chapel, which is Gothic revival in style and a landmark structure on campus. Also Snyder Cottage, which was built in the 1920s, which was a lakeside residence built by the Snyder family. Alumni House, which is a 1930 arts and crafts style cottage that was built as a staff residence. And the 1950 to 56 portions of Memorial Classroom Building, which is modernist in style by Morani and Morris and defined future development on campus. There are also 2 other significant built structures that aren't necessarily buildings. These are the original stone entrance gates, which were built in 1911, and the central quadrangle, which has developed over time from an informal open space into a landscaped courtyard. Appleby College's natural heritage features are also central to its identity and how it has developed over the past century. As noted, the property has ties to 2 significant bodies of water, McCraney Creek on the west and Lake Ontario to the south. The campus retains mature tree cover, including a Carolinian forest on the west ridge and remnants of a red oak woodlot in the southeast. These wooded areas, along with historic plantings, contribute to the ecological and cultural value of the site. Historic pedestrian trails, such as the original entrance, which is now a walkway and is highlighted in yellow on that original pamphlet there on the slide. Creekside paths, lakeshore trails follow the site's ridges, valleys, and graded slopes. This landscape has shaped building placement and preserved key views across campus and toward the lake. And Appleby College's views are a defining feature of campus, shaped by that topography and deliberate campus design. New developments have maintained low building heights to preserve key sightlines across the property. Appleby College is also located on land within the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, with ties to Six Nations and the Wendat. This land was ceded to the British Crown through the 1806 Head of the Lake Treaty by Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. And while no archaeological assessments are known to have been conducted on site, the property may contain archaeological resources. So the site may also have archaeological potential for its Indigenous history and as a Euro-Canadian settler site. So there's a lot of words on this slide. I'm not going to be reading all of them, but I will be going over it briefly. So following that evaluation, through the noted 906 criteria, Appleby College meets 7 of the 9 criteria for demonstrating cultural heritage value or interest. It has design and physical value as it holds representative examples of arts and crafts, Gothic revival, and modernist architecture, as well as built structures of significance and natural features such as bodies of water, trees, trails, topography, and view sheds. It has historical and associative value for its direct ties to significant figures like Walker and Guest and their role in shaping Oakville, as well as reflecting the work of several notable architects with the potential to yield insights into Indigenous and settler histories. And it has contextual value as a defining local landmark which is visually and historically linked to its surroundings along Lakeshore Road West. So in summary, Appleby College meets 7 of the 906 criteria and is a significant cultural heritage landscape. It also falls under 2 UNESCO categories of CHLs, which was adopted by the town as part of the strategy. It is a designed landscape intentionally created by people, and it is an organically evolved continuous landscape, which is a landscape shaped by social and environmental factors that continues to evolve and serve a contemporary role. A CHL designation with a conservation plan will provide clarity and predictability and ensure alterations and new development are compatible with Appleby's heritage character as a whole. Designating Appleby campus as a CHL protects not just buildings, but their relationships, the open spaces, natural features, and history that give it its identity, ensuring it can be valued and enjoyed in the future. I would also like to note at this point that staff have worked closely with Appleby College, its property committee, and its heritage consultants throughout this process. Staff want to acknowledge that Appleby College has been a respectful and dedicated and longtime steward of the school's cultural heritage. So today, staff is recommending that the committee endorses this report and allows the project to move into phase 3 or implementation. So if endorsed, this will be taken forward to a Planning and Development Council meeting for approval, which then allows the formal initiation of phase 3, which is again that detailed conservation plan with the designation bylaw. And if this goes forward, staff will be working again closely with Appleby and their heritage consultants on that next step. So I'm happy to take any questions at this point. And I will note, I believe Alessandro from ERA is online. Lisa, maybe? If anyone has questions for them representing Appleby's interests, potentially.
Okay, thank you, Kirsten.
Thanks.
Any questions of Kirsten? It was a wonderful report. It was really, like so many of these reports, there's such good reading, and they pull together so many of the historical threads that we often see around this table from different parts of the town. It's really good stuff. Now, is Mr. Tarsigny on the line? I can't see you, sir.
Yes.
So, yes, is there anything you wish to add to Kirsten's presentation?
No. Good morning, committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for having me. And thanks, Kristen. No, nothing to add really, other than in consulting with Appleby College, it was a very cooperative process, providing feedback and working with staff to ensure that the report was the best it could be.
Good, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Tarsigny? Nope, thank you. No questions. Right, and since that's the only registered delegation, we're confined now to the board. Any discussion? Anybody wish to comment? Bob?
Just to reiterate Drew's remarks, Kristen, I found this an extraordinarily easy read for a report of this length, and it's very well researched, so congratulations.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, any further discussion? Would somebody like to give me a motion then? Thanks, Kerry. So the motion is that we endorse enthusiastically the report, and that we move to the next steps. We recommend to council that we move now to the next steps. Okay? Any further discussion on that motion? Is there anyone opposed to that motion? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kirsten. Right, so the next item on our agenda is a heritage permit application for 3175 Lakeshore Road West, and that's Sue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the committee. I am bringing forward today a heritage permit application that has been submitted on behalf of the owner of 3175 Lakeshore Road West, known as the Cudmore House. And so the property that we're looking at, hopefully everyone's fairly familiar with, as the designation bylaw for this property was brought forward in 2024, passed at that time. It is located on the north or west side of Lakeshore Road West here, and it is just west of West Street and the village of Brawny. The property contains 2.5-story buff brick house in the Dutch colonial revival style that was built circa 1920. The application before you today contains 9 proposed items. The staff report has broken these items down into various components in order to fully discuss and assess the impacts on the heritage attributes of the property. So first of all, we're looking at the demolition of the 1-story sunroom and enclosed porch on the rear elevation. Those are not heritage attributes of the property. There's the proposal to construct a new garage that is attached by a breezeway in that location, to construct a new covered porch on the rear elevation, removing that portion of the existing porch. Again, that existing porch on the rear elevation is not a heritage attribute of the property. To replace all wood windows and doors with metal-clad wood, and that should be actually on the side elevations. To stain, not paint, the buff brick white, to stain or paint all of the wood trim to match the brick, to replace the red metal roof with black asphalt shingles, to replace all soffits and fascia, and to clad over the stucco and half-timbered gables with board and batten. And so these later items do impact heritage attributes in a number of ways, but first I'm going to take you around the property. Some of you have been able to join us on a site visit. So you can see the upper photo is the house as it presents towards Lakeshore Road. There are a number of large trees and kind of mature plant growth there right now that does obscure some of those front windows, but the windows are, we believe, original to the house. And then we're coming around to the west side elevation, so you can get a clearer view of that side gambrel roof, which is quite a unique feature in Oakville, with this false half timbering and stucco in the gambrel end on the upper half story of the property. And this is coming around to the back so that you can see the addition of that enclosure for the rear porch that is not a heritage attribute of the property. And then again, around to the east side of the house where you can see the 1-story sunroom addition. Again, that has not been included as a heritage attribute. These are some photos submitted as part of the application that do show some of the cracking in the mortar. A couple of the masonry units certainly are impacted as well. And you can note in the lower photo that one of the chimneys on the property certainly has some serious need of repointing as well. So the application, as it is before you today, as I noted, proposes the removal of that 1-story sunroom, and so that is replaced by the proposed 1-story garage that you can see on this site plan elevation. You can also see the proposed porch addition, and of course, the existing 2.5-story dwelling that remains. Coming around, we're starting at the front of the property, which of course is the front elevation facing Lakeshore Road West. The application has noted all of the proposed alterations, from the change in that red roof material to new asphalt shingles, existing columns and trim to be retained, repaired, and restored as needed. The windows on the front elevation are proposed to be restored. Windows on the remaining elevations are proposed to be replaced. The buff brick that has a reddish mortar in between it is proposed to be stained. Board and batten siding would clad the sides of the dormers as well as the sides of those gable ends where you see, where you saw the false half timbering and stucco. And of course, you can see the new garage addition, which is following our general guidelines in terms of being lower in height. It's pushed back slightly from the front elevation, is clad in a board and batten material that is complementary but doesn't compete with the original portion of the house. Coming around to the side elevations of the property, you can see where the board and batten cladding would be proposed to be placed over that stucco and half timbering in the upper story of the gambrel end. The windows to be replaced with aluminum clad wood windows. You can see the rear elevation porch there to be replaced and reconstructed essentially with something slightly different. We'll go around to the back so you can get a clearer picture of that, that porch, which will be an open structure rather than closed as it currently is. And again, continuing on with the changes to the brick, the proposed replacement of the windows, again, just on the side and rear elevations, and the board and batten siding that would then clad the sides of the dormers to match the proposed cladding for those the gambrel ends in the upper story. And here you can see more clearly the side elevation of the new garage as it appears in context to the house where currently that one-story sunroom addition is located. And this is a 3D rendering of the proposed changes to the house and what it would look like upon completion. So, as I've noted, there are extensive alterations proposed in this heritage permit application. Staff have tried to break them down so that they're very easy to understand and how they relate to the designated heritage attributes of the property. Staff have supported a number of changes that do not have any identified negative impacts or impact at all to the heritage attributes as listed in the designation bylaw. That includes the removal of the sunroom and the construction of the new garage, the removal of the enclosed rear porch and construction of that new covered porch, all of the restoration projects that are noted in the application, including the front windows, the brick chimneys, and the columns of those front porches, and the staining of the wood trim or painting as the owner sees fit. There are a number of alterations that staff have carefully considered that will directly impact heritage attributes. The first is the replacement of the red metal roof with black asphalt shingles. Since the passing of the bylaw in 2024, we have since learned that the red metal roof is not in fact original to the property, and therefore staff feel that its replacement with black asphalt shingles is generally considered appropriate. Asphalt shingles are commonly used material on historic houses, and we would see no negative impact overall to the cultural heritage value of the property with this change. Staff also support the restoration of the windows on the side and rear elevations, noting that the front elevation is supposed to be restored. Several of these windows, of course, have been replaced or altered due to those additions that we've seen, and staff are attempting to arrive at a compromise that permits the property owners to make some improvements to the house to features that are not directly visible from the front elevation in Lakeshore Road West, to give them some flexibility while retaining those most important front-facing attributes. However, there are two changes in the heritage permit application that are not supported by staff. The first is staining the buff brick a white color. Staff feel that the color of the brick is integral to the cultural heritage value of this Dutch colonial revival home. And so conservation of the brick in its current color is recommended to conserve the heritage character of the Cudmore House. We note that while staining historic brick doesn't cause the same potential problems with maintaining the masonry that painting does. For example, when you paint over historic brick, you can cause a number of serious issues that would cause the masonry units themselves to fail, essentially spalling through the freeze and thaw cycle. Moisture gets trapped behind the layer of paint and in the end ends up destroying the brick. That would not happen with staining the brick. So there's no concerns about the condition. The concern is about the change to the cultural heritage value of the property, as staining is not a reversible action. There's simply no way to undo that color change without irreversible damage to the brick face. The other thing that staff have not supported in the report is cladding over the stucco and half timbering in those side gables with the board and batten material. The board and batten is certainly staff is supporting for use on the new garage structure. However, the stucco and half timbering are defining characteristics of this building. Staff recommends conservation through repair and repainting of that stucco and the false half timbering. Again, in order to conserve the cultural heritage value of the Cudmore House. And so staff are here today with a recommendation of conditional approval. And so the conditions are that the exterior buff brick cladding remains unstained. The stucco and half timbering in the gable ends is not covered or clad. And then, of course, our typical recommendation that the final details for materials for the new garage trim and replacement windows would then go to heritage planning staff for sign-off before their installation. And as typical, again, we have our 2-year expiry date for the heritage permit. So staff I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I do know that there is a representative of the property owner here today to speak to the item as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good, thank you, Sue. A very full report as usual. Any questions of Sue about this application?
Mr. Chair, we actually do have a delegate from the public, if you wish to.
Yes, but we'll deal with Sue first.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions of Sue? Nope, nope, good, right. Yes, well, we have a note here that we have Mr. Andrew Zillick, who is a delegate, registered delegate. And if you would like to attend the podium, Mr. Zillick, and just give your name and relationship to the application to the clerk. The sound is not on, or is that somewhere else?
See it.
There it is on now, good.
Is it on? Okay. Anyway, good morning again. Yes, I'm here representing Sandra Lee Cudmore on her property, Lakeshore. We appreciate the work that went into this report and review. We do have a couple of concerns, of course, with the items that weren't accepted on the application. First of all, when I first looked at this, I looked up Dutch colonial revival architecture. I'm not an architect like Jerry, but so I did find the applicable attributes for that are the gambrel roof, the wide overhangs with the flared eaves, dormer windows, symmetry. In a lot of cases, the double chimneys on the side ends of the walls. And I believe the application is consistent with retaining all these attributes. But when I did look this up, I didn't see anything about brick or stucco or siding or anything like that. So, I mean, we're saying that the brick is the attribute of the house, but when I looked this up, most everything I saw was siding dwellings. Some stucco, and I was hard pressed to find one that had brick on it at all. In terms of the brick itself, there are a number of extensive repairs that are being required. The chimneys, especially the west chimney, would have to be entirely rebuilt. They can't be repointed. And there's the issue of finding the matching brick, trying to match the purple mortar. Again, so you're going to have a bit of a patchwork on the house with repairs over the windows where you may have to replace some of the brick with something that doesn't match, repointing of the cracks. You can try and match up the mortar as best you can, but you're still going to see the mortar scar running up the side of most every window on the house itself. So we feel that by staining the brick, we have a more consistent look. I mean, it's I've seen a lot of heritage houses in Oakville that have changed materials, changed colors, and a lot of them look very good, very seamless, because they were allowed to make the property look seamless. In this case, we're going to have a number of visible repairs that you're not going to be able to hide. In terms of the sidewall gables, yes, I understand the value of keeping that craftsman appearance there, but just from experience, taking out those rotted timbers is going to just completely destroy the stucco that's there. It'll have to be completely redone. So I don't know if this is in a case where it's at any cost to do it, or I don't know. We just felt that keeping the look of the house consistent with the garage addition might give it a better curb appeal. And so we just feel that those two items would be well served for the house if we'd be allowed to change the side gables and stain the brick so it's consistent looking. Sue did mention it's white. White isn't necessarily the color that would be chosen. It's more like a lighter taupe. I apologize for the AI rendering. It does show the upper gables, upper dormer windows as black. They're supposed to be matching the garage as well as the side gables. It shows it at black. It's supposed to be, again, matching the garage cladding itself. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wait, don't go away yet.
Okay.
There may be questions. And I should have reminded you, you had 10 minutes, but you've kept well within the 10 minutes in your presentation. So I didn't really have to tell you that. Are there any questions of Mrs. Zilli? Carrie?
Thank you for appearing. Excuse me, sorry. Have you consulted a heritage brickie who specializes in heritage buildings and heritage brick and heritage mortar?
No, I haven't. No, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
There are people who do that. I've used them. Any other questions of the...
Sorry, I did try and look for a matching brick already, and I can't find a matching brick.
Yeah.
And I know the chimneys will have to be rebuilt, so it's a matter of how it's going to look. You're going to find maybe something close to the yellow brick, but certainly won't be exact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions of the delegate? Nope. Thank you for your delegation.
Okay, thank you.
We have another delegate, Mr. Chair.
Not registered.
George Niblock.
Are we allowing unregistered delegates? Okay. Fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe I did register and I got confirmation.
If you did, that's good. We'll take that as read, George. Off you go.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll just give you a little bit of history. My name's George Niblock, and I'm a real estate agent. I do specialize in the sale of heritage properties. And so I was asked by the owners, longtime owners, the Cudmores, to represent them on the sale, which has been extremely challenging. It was previously for sale before the current listing. The previous delegate is a potential buyer of the property and a builder. During the sale process, most people that come to these types of properties, there's an interest because of the size and scale and good location of these kind of heritage buildings. They love the larger property, the larger size of the house, but because very little has been done with this house over the years, the many years that it's been owned by the current owners, requires lots of investment and renovation. Most people seem to be okay with the concept that a heritage designation, that they work with within the heritage guidelines and with the committee to make the changes. But the sheer expense of this type of restoration and then what the end value might be in today's market makes it very challenging. So there has been a huge, significant drop in the value of the property, and it's far below now what the land alone would be worth. So as you can imagine, for the owners of the property, Mrs. Cudmore, her husband died recently during this process. There is a big financial burden here. These buyers came and have shown great enthusiasm for the property and in restoring it. And so they purchased the property conditional upon getting approval from the committee today, without which they would release us and we'd be back to trying to find another suitable buyer, which again is very challenging. So we really wanted to do our best to put something together. The property is now vacant, and it has been for some time. And as you know, that's not a good thing for heritage properties. We saw some other ones today that, when they're left empty, it's not a good thing over time. They start to deteriorate. So I really do appreciate the work that Sue and the team have done to accommodate the application. I did want to, I also just wanted to point out the challenge with the Part 4 designations when they're somewhat out of context, out of a heritage context. That can also be a real challenge for the sale and therefore the retention of these properties over the longer term, because in the heritage districts, I always find it's much easier because there is context for these homes. This has been lost with the Cudmore farmhouse, unfortunately. It's all new development. There will be a new townhouse development to the east and a new house to the west, and all more contemporary homes surrounding it. So it does stand on its own as a bit of an island, which is another challenge. Now, in terms of the potential buyer's request regarding the buff brick, and the idea that staining it is not a reversible change, I absolutely understand the previous delegate, who's the real applicant on behalf of the owner, their wish to get a consistent look and do a repair that's seamless. This is, I think, a reasonable request that the house look. not like there has been visible repairs, especially on the facade. But in terms of the staining not being reversible, I wondered if something that had not been considered, might be considered, to clad the house in wood siding, horizontal wood siding, and so on, so that the applicant can achieve what they're trying to achieve in terms of a consistent look for the house, and that brick can actually be retained for the future, preserved underneath wood siding, which was, quite common with heritage homes. I know my Part 4 designated house has wood siding over top of another material, and down the road it could be taken off to reveal what's behind. So I did want to make that suggestion. In terms of the half timbering on the gable ends, this is, the photos we saw were very clear of it. It's actually not something you see from the road the same way within the public realm. So I was a little surprised that that was considered part of the cultural heritage value of the property, because it was on the sides, up at the roof, and the angle of the house and the trees and so on. It's not particularly visible from the public realm. And as Andy mentioned, it's unlikely that a minor repair would be effective for retaining it. It probably needs full replacement. So it would no longer actually be original in that case. So I wonder, if anybody has any questions or thoughts on those proposals.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Niblock. Here, thank you. Got a couple of minutes left, so thank you for staying within the time allocation. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Mr. Niblock. Just a quick question. How long has the house been vacant? Like the condition of the house inside, how long has it been vacant?
It's been vacant for, I think it's approaching a year now.
Okay.
And condition of the house inside is pretty good, okay. Actually. It's the exterior that's sorely lacking at this point.
And then so these are the last two items, I guess, the staining of the brick and the cladding. Those are the last two items before, I guess, acceptance for the sale.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, George? No? 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 Did I understand you to make a suggestion that the application be changed?
Yeah, I have spoken to both the owner and the delegate, who's the real applicant, and they would be that would be acceptable to them, that change to the application, if it was acceptable to staff and committee.
I think that such a change would need a little bit more time to consider than simply just presenting it to us here at the committee, to be fair. Because we would need to see the detail of that change, right. And we would need to have advice from staff as to how that change would impact the application and the preservation of the heritage attributes that are in the bylaw.
Understood.
Council has to deal with this by April the 6th. So it doesn't have to go to the next meeting of council, as I understand it. There would be time for it to go to the meeting after that. Am I right? Can somebody confirm that to me? If we've got April 6th as our, in the absence of the parties agreeing to extend the timeline?
Mr. Chair, just to advise of deadlines and dates, there would be another Heritage Committee meeting on Tuesday, February 24th. followed by a Planning and Development Council meeting on March the 2nd, I believe. That would fall within the timeline, but staff are always open to working with the property owners if there is an extension requested as well in order to come to, a proposal that works for all parties. Staff certainly haven't considered the proposal that's being brought up at the meeting and would need some more time. And as you've noted, some more details about exactly what's being proposed there. But if the heritage application is deferred to the February meeting, we would still be within our allotted time of 90 days.
So I understand time's important to you, but I think you must agree that it would be a little unfair of me to ask the committee members to make a decision on that just off the top without the advice of staff and without the detailed elements as to how you're going to manage the mock Tudor and the stucco and stuff that would be underneath whatever you're doing, because structural repair would still have to be carried out, and to how the board and batten would look on the house and so on. So if the parties are agreeable, then I might suggest to the committee that we in fact defer this application. George, is that not acceptable?
Well, I wondered if it might be possible to approve the changes that you have that staff are recommending, and then this might be considered separately.
What you're
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just saying. I wondered if you might consider an approval today for the staff recommendation, and consider additional changes separately.
We could craft a motion that accepted the staff report with respect to the first number of items, and that consideration of the other two items be deferred until our meeting of February the 24th. Would staff be able to accommodate that in a motion? Because again, I'm getting ahead of myself here, because the committee still has to vote that it agrees to the first half a dozen. But
yeah,
the structure of the discussion would be around that kind of approach.
Mr. Chair, just simply in regards to this kind of procedural question, it would be staff's recommendation to deal with the recommendation as it is within the staff report, and for the applicant to come in with a new heritage permit application for the two conditions that have been recommended for denial. Because they are talking about changes, it would be a different application. They wouldn't simply be coming forward with exactly the same material that's just being turned down. Staff would consider that as a new application, and we would deal with it separately from the remaining issues that have already been approved.
Yep.
I believe that would be appropriate.
I think we could make that work, but thank you, George, for your input right now. We have to now with the board, because the committee may have an entirely different view as to how this should be dealt with, but I'm just trying to get options. I'm trying to get the parameters. I'm trying to get the context in which the committee might want to
Thank you
discuss
very
this.
much.
So
thank you very much for the time. I want to say thank you to everybody here for the volunteerism and your hard work over many, many years, some of you. And the preservation of Oakville heritage is so important, especially now more than ever in the town. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you. Okay. Good. Bob. It's okay.
Just a thought that came to me. Would staining of the brick to match the buff-coloured brick after repairs had been completed be an option?
Again, that would have to be proposed by the applicant, really, for staff to consider it. I assume a committee member is suggesting that a different shade or a very similar shade of buff brick would be, or stain would be used to match any new masonry units to the existing ones. But it probably would require an overall application, I would suggest, in order to meet that. But if it is proposed, staff would certainly examine the merits of that application.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Sue, did you want to say something? You've forgotten how to push the button. There's a button right on the bottom of that stalk.
Okay, this works. My fear with the changes that are still requested by the applicant is that this building is being neutered. I think that's the only word I could think of it. So maintaining the current brick and maintaining the faux Tudor on the sides, that's part of the whimsy of the home. It's part of the uniqueness of the home. You know, regardless of how you want to define Dutch whatever, that definition is somewhat moot because this is really about this specific building in the context of our history, in the context of its place. So I would be saddened. Even I understand that maybe there's going to have to be a compromise made for the sale. I feel a little bit, and this is going to be harsh, I feel a little bit blackmailed to agree to changing the brick or putting on siding or compromising on the half timbering on the side, because somehow if they don't get that, they won't buy it, and this other person is going to be in a difficult position. So, I mean, that would be my personal quandary, coming from the philosophical angle of what my vote, how my vote will affect these people as people, and how my vote will affect respecting the uniqueness of this building. I don't think neutering it so that it fits in with the rest of the neighborhood is a good thing. I don't know how else to put it, so that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you. Carrie?
Through you, Mr. Chair, not sure I'm allowed to make a suggestion, but I would highly encourage the applicants to consult a heritage brickie. I've had significant brickwork done to our house. I actually think it would be a cheaper option than either staining or covering it with wood. Getting matching brick and matching mortar with a heritage brickie is not challenging. It's easy to do. It's not going to blend with the garage the way you're proposing the garage to look now, but perhaps rather than changing the house to match the garage, perhaps the approach might be to change the garage to match the house.
Right.
Thank you, Kerry. And I also have had experience of finding a brick of the right dimension, the right sand material, the right color, and it can be done to do the repair. But so is there anyone else who wishes to weigh in at this point? No, because we are confined to the board now. We've had all the delegations. So the staff has made a recommendation that the portions of the application which don't affect the heritage attributes, they're fine with. The ones that have impact on the heritage attributes, they're fine with the roof, for example, because it's not original anyway, we discover, and the asphalt would be appropriate. The big sticking point with staff is the brick, which is a designated heritage attribute, and with respect to the mock Tudor gable ends. So these are the two elements here, and the staff has recommended that the approval that we give, the recommendation we give to council, reflect that. The applicant has suggested that they might want to make a change to that might be more acceptable. It could be something else to do with the brick. It could be something to do with covering the whole building and just losing the brick altogether behind a wood finish. So the way we can deal with this is we can accept the staff recommendation, and that's that. And that gives the applicant the opportunity to come back and make a new application with respect to the items that we have recommended to council be turned down. Now, where I'm at here is timing. Could that be done before it goes to council at its next meeting? And then we're leaving council to deal with it. We don't like to do that. We like to give council a well thought out recommendation. We don't like to hand stuff to them and say, here's some stuff for you to review and think about. So in my own thought, perhaps in the motion we adjust it slightly to say that we accept the staff recommendation. Our vote is to recommend that to be considered by council at its meeting on March the 2nd, or to be reconsidered by this committee at 24th of March, February. I'm not sure how we get it back to us. We need to extend, it's not extending the timelines under the Act, we have time to do that, but it's extending the process timeline so that it doesn't come to the next council, but it would give us time to get it back to us. So if anybody can help me here with how we implement that, because I'm sensing that the staff recommendation would fly with the committee. But we are always open to hear if people have another idea or another way to deal with it. It's how we slot that in between now and our next meeting.
To you, Mr. Chair, about the question of process. Again, I think it would just be easiest if the committee supports the staff recommendation to simply let that go through to Planning and Development Council on February the 17th. And council can deal with that recommendation as they see fit. In the meantime, the applicant is certainly welcome to work with staff to bring forward a new application for those 2 items that have been recommended for denial. And that would come forward to Heritage Oakville on February 24th. And then back to council. And so it really would be up to them to, again, to bring forward that information as a new application. You know, I realized it was a proposal that was simply, you know, brought up today. And, you know, I think all of us will simply need some additional time to consider that, and that gives us the opportunity to do so if they choose to proceed with that. So the ball would be in their court. They are certainly able to submit a new heritage permit application. If we get that, you know, within a reasonable amount of time in order to make sure that it makes it onto our agenda packages so the committee has it 2 weeks prior to that meeting. There are a number of deadlines to meet that I would be happy to work with the applicants on in order for the committee to consider alternatives.
Good, thank you, Sue. I like that. That's good straight lines. So I think where we're at is we've got a lot of background information now, but we have fundamentally, we have a staff report, we have the delegates' information, and we've had a lot of discussion around it. So what we're looking at is the staff recommendation. We deal with that staff recommendation. We are aware that there's always the opportunity for the applicant to come back, submit a new application with respect to the items that were not approved today, if that's, because that's what the staff recommendation says. Okay, is everybody happy with that? Is there any further discussion on that? Would somebody like to move the staff? George, thank you. Staff will move. No. I think we've discussed it. We're here. So we're at the point now where we can deal with the staff recommendation, and then all of these other things will flow out and reappear here at our next meeting. Okay. So is that all right with everybody? So we've got George has made the motion to approve the staff recommendation. Is there anyone opposed to that? No, there isn't. Good, thank you. Now, again, as regards process, the applicant can always appear before council, but I shouldn't probably tell them how to do things. But again, going to council and presenting them with a new idea, which the committee hasn't had the opportunity to review, I don't think that would fly very far, Councillor Longo.
Yeah, I think your approach and suggested approach, I think, is fair. that allows the committee to come back to see the two areas that are being denied by staff, to see if the applicants can come to an agreement. That allows the committee to look at either the different options, brick, cladding, wood cladding, etc. That way council knows that that's also been reviewed by the committee. And I don't think we're not talking like 10 months, we're talking within a cycle, so we can get the approval of the staff recommendations at the February 17th meeting, and then that allows us the committee to do the work with the applicant, of course, looking at the best options to then bring that fully, and then that'll be at the March, I guess, council meeting.
Super, thank you for that input. Okay, good. Right, thank you very much, everybody, for that. It was good discussion, and thank you for the applicants for sharing all the information that they have with us. Okay, so we move on to item number 5, which is information items, and these consist of the delegated heritage permits, which have been handled by staff under our delegation bylaw. And as always, if you have any questions about these, then you should speak to staff after the meeting. This is an important element in the process because we're not just getting information about these approvals that staff have made, but it gives us the opportunity to monitor the approval process and to be sure in ourselves that everything is working the way that it should. The second information item is our meeting schedule for 2026, which has been circulated. Jason is just anxious to give me a motion to receive the information items. Thank you very much, Jason. So anyone opposed to that? Seeing none, the information items are received. The date and time of our next meeting is February the 24th in the council chamber at 9:30. So can I have a motion to adjourn? Kerry? Good, thank you. Kerry has moved that we adjourn. There's no opposition to that. So thank you, everyone, once again for the gift of your time today. It's been a meaty meeting, a lot of stuff to think about, and thank you for your participation.